Hi, I am Melanie Griffin. I am here with you from Tampa, Florida, and what a joy it is to join you at this year's 2022 Arizona Toastmasters Conference. I absolutely love your theme, Rise Up, Celebrate Your Summit, because this year more than ever, I think that all that we do is about the journey and celebrating ourselves, each other, and our community. And so, with that, I am a small business owner who owns a company called Spread Your Sunshine. I love working on empowerment and celebrating others. So, this is right up our alley. We're going to have a great time together today. And with that, my presentation is growing your positive mindset, the power of positivity, showing yourself and others grace, and living a life of gratitude. And what I'm really particularly interested in our time together is making sure that we not only collaborate, but also that you get strategies that you can use to implement changes in your life that can help you achieve more grace, more positivity, and more gratitude, and help you rise up that summit. So let's get started. The first way that I think we can best celebrate each other is to tell negativity to take a hike. When you think about it, you love more than likely positive quotes. We're all attracted to them. We often see them on billboards, we see them on social media, and there's a reason that we love them. It's because they make us feel good. They lift us up, and we want to believe in them, and we do believe in them. And when we see them, we feel better. But here's the thing. When you tell yourself negative comments about you that more than likely are untrue, your mind also believes those. Just like the positive comments it believes, it can't distinguish the difference between those positive comments and those negative ones. So for instance, if you say, I'm a bad speaker, I'm going to blow this presentation, I'm not going to connect with my audience, I don't know how to share my joy or my knowledge, what if I don't get my next client? Those are all negative thoughts that you are feeding yourself and making your mind believe that either A, aren't true, or B, don't have to be true. These could all be things that we're working on and getting better at every day. That is all part of that journey and rising up that summit. And so with that, one of the things that we have to do is just like if you want to make a physical change, you may change your diet, you may change your physical activity, you may do something different with your life. It's the same thing with working on that mental positivity. And so here, what I'd like to ask is, how many of you have gone on a diet to lose at least 5 pounds or more? I bet some of you are raising your hand. I bet a lot of you are raising your hand. I know I'm raising both hands. For me, I have done this multiple times because I wanted to make a physical change at different points in my life. So now here's a different question. How many of you have gone on a diet to lose at least 5% or more of your negativity about yourself and or others? My best guess is that some of you are ahead of the curve and you absolutely raised your hand or hands, and I am here for it. I am all about it. But I also guess that some of you haven't done that. And this is definitely the first step in the journey. You have got to figure out how to practice a positive mindset. And so for me, one of the things that I realized several years ago is that my mind was on this negative auto loop. It was automatically doubting me. And instead of thinking, how will I succeed? How will I move the ball forward? How will I celebrate myself and others? I was constantly thinking, what if I fail? Again, what if I don't find that next client? What if this presentation doesn't go well? What if I make a mistake? I wasn't planning to be successful and to bring joy and to empower others. And so what I decided was that I was tired of that auto loop. I didn't want to listen to that record going around and around anymore. I wanted to be a better person. And so I told that negativity to take a hike. And so there are a couple of ways that I've done that. And I would like to help and encourage you to do it if you have not yet started this practice. So number one is just flat out tell yourself no. Just finding yourself in that mindset and saying, we're not going to do this today. We are not going to allow the negativity to overcome our spirit is one of the first steps that really helped me. A second thing that helped me was also learning that when you dwell on something and you don't move on, you don't learn from it, then you can't move forward. And so that is part of the journey as well. As hard as it is, Research shows that the first step in becoming a better person, only helping others and for yourself, is to make sure that you have given yourself forgiveness. How many times are you quick to forgive someone else? They accidentally take a Cheeto from you or stub your toe or get something to you a few minutes late. And you're so quick to give them grace and to allow them to apologize to you for that mistake. But when it comes to you, you dwell. You didn't talk to someone enough at the party. You didn't remember someone's name. You didn't say hi to someone. And that's okay. We are not perfect. What is important is that you find a way to stop yourself from dwelling. You stop that negative behavior and you move on and you find ways to move forward. Another way that I've practiced not dwelling, in addition to realizing that I've got to stop and that it doesn't help, is that I think about that is that, again, the milk is on the floor. It is spilled. It is not going to clean it up, so to speak, to sit there and think about it. All I can do is learn from the situation, move forward, and do better next time. One of the ways I also enjoy doing this is to think about someone who really empowers me and how they show themselves and others grace. And by that, it lifts me up and gives me a guidepost. My final trick that I will end this part of the session with is that I, probably like most of you, have a lengthy list of podcasts, books, other people, songs, spiritual guides, whatever it may be that lifts you up that I go to. And so the instant I start feeling that negativity, that is my go-to, is to turn that on and to realize so many people have struggled in the journey. When you look at LinkedIn, there is no box that says, list your failures, list your challenges. I actually hope that one day we add that type of commentary to our social media platforms, because I think that oftentimes people aren't necessarily hiding the ball from us. It's just not something they always think about sharing. And all of us have challenges. It's just that they're not always shared. So rise up, lift up, keep going, because you have so much to offer the world. And so I want you to do this. I want you to think about one question before we move on from this section. What makes you fabulously talented and uniquely awesome? What makes you fabulously talented and uniquely awesome? And I'm going to pause just for a minute and let you think about it. Okay, are you telling yourself? I hope you are. So let's move on to the next section, which is being a cheerleader for others. And I hope you know that this is one of your ultimate superpowers. Did you know you're wearing a cape? Am I wearing a cape? It's right there, whether you can see it or not. And you are too. And here's why. Can you remember the last compliment that you got? For me, I led a tough meeting yesterday. And I didn't know if it went well because, like some things in life, when you send an email or conduct a meeting, there's not always instant feedback. It was difficult to read that particular crowd. And in fact, I thought that maybe the meeting hadn't gone very well and that I hadn't quite connected with the leaders with whom I was working. And it was a little bit later in the day, and someone came to me and they said, "Wow, that was such an awesome meeting. I'm so glad we did that. When is the next one?" And I thought, wow, I would have never known that necessarily from the way that I was reading the room. And this is such a powerful example, is that if you not just think positive thoughts, but take the time to share them with others, that is a game changer. Because for me, that comment was a catalyst from going to feeling badly that the meeting had, in my mind, potentially gone badly, to being empowered to think, wow, that was great. I really did do what I intended to do as a leader, and to keep going and to think about how I would connect with that audience and do that meeting again. And so that is the superpower that you have, not to just think things, but to actually share them and say them. And that can come in so many different forms, because sometimes people love doing it one-on-one and looking you in the eye. Sometimes I know that's uncomfortable or embarrassing. And so we may want to send a handwritten note, shoot a text, give a call, whatever it may be. But whatever makes you feel good and comfortable about rising and uplifting others, that is a way that you can lift yourself up the summit and lift your community up with you at the same time. Because what we find is that oftentimes when we are spreading our joy, it not only uplifts others, then it uplifts us at the same time too. So think about that. And I want you to think of someone that you think needs uplifting in your community. Who is someone who's fabulously awesome and uniquely talented, and you need to tell them about it? And I'm going to give you just a minute to think about that as well. All right, have you thought about it? Do you know who it is? All right, I'm going to issue you another challenge right now. And that is, I want you to get out your phone and shoot that person a text. Are you doing it? I sure hope so. And I'm pausing because that is awesome. You just made someone's day. I guarantee you that they are smiling right now in this presentation because of you, because you uplifted their day. And so that is the difference between thinking something and not sharing it, and thinking it and actually communicating it. The communication is key here, because that is how the other person is going to know what it is that you are thinking. Now, I want to pause here and ask you one more question. Was it easier to think about why your friend or colleague was fabulously awesome and uniquely talented? Or was it easier to think about why you are fabulously awesome and uniquely talented? My best guess is that more than likely, you said it was easier to think about why someone else was fabulously talented and uniquely awesome. And that's okay, because again, we are all about uplifting others. But if you're going to rise up your summit and be the best you can be and make your unique positive impact in the world that you were put here to make, you need to know why you in your core, why are you awesome? And if you have that at your core belief, and of course we want to be humble, we want to walk around and have people know that our hubris is in check, but you have to know at your fundamental core why it is, what it is that you bring to the world. It's going to help you not only stay on mission, but it's going to lift you up when that going gets tough, when you start to think this negative mindset and you start to have that doubt creep in and you think, no, I'm going to that meeting. I am awesome. Negativity, you stay here, you stay behind, because I'm going there. I am going forward. And that is what is going to best propel you. So the next thing that I like to think about when I am uplifting others is showing both myself grace, as we talked about. You've got to start with giving yourself grace and understanding and allowing yourself to know that you forgive yourself for, procrastination or tardiness or that late assignment or the kids' lunch that you wish you packed or the baseball game you wish you attended. You've got to forgive yourself and move forward. And you need to do the same thing for others. And for me, I was listening to a podcast this morning if I was getting ready, and it challenged us to think about when the last conversation was that we weren't at our best. We all do it. As much as we practice this awesome mindset, we all wish sometimes that things were different and that we'd handle the situation differently. So I'm going to pause again and just give you 1 second to think about it. Okay, I have mine up here. And it was when I didn't challenge a coworker or I didn't meet the challenge and I wanted to interact with them differently. I wish I'd handled the situation differently at work. And here was the challenge that was issued on the podcast I was listening to this morning is, what if that person was dying? What if you knew they were sick? What if you knew they were having a bad day? Would you have handled the situation the same way? And the answer is you probably would not have. If you knew that something wasn't okay, you probably would have shown them empathy. You would have given them the benefit of the doubt. What if we treated every moment like that? Instead of waiting until we know that someone actually has a terminal illness or is feeling badly or has had some traumatic incident, that we go ahead and assume that everyone with whom we're interacting is walking their own journey. They're climbing their own summit, because they are. We've all had something that's happened to us, whether it's divorce, losing someone, losing a pet, a traumatic incident. We're all dealing with our own challenges and we don't know what someone else is going through. And so I'll give you a couple of examples here that have been super helpful to me and learning experiences that I either could have learned from and or done better and or have applied this experience. And so the first one where I learned from past instances where I didn't give someone the benefit of the doubt and I did hold them accountable, say for being late or forgetting a meeting, was when I adopted this positive mindset one of the first things that happened is I was supposed to meet someone one day for coffee. And the person didn't get there right on time. And so I sat down and I was like, you know what? This is actually awesome. Those of you who don't know, I actually have a 4-year-old. And so I don't really get a lot of time to myself running around with a full-time job and a child and a husband and a dog. And so it was actually really nice just to have a few minutes to sit down. I was looking at my iPhone, maybe sending a few texts, catching up. This is great. I am ahead of the game. And so a few minutes went by and the person wasn't there. So I shot him a text who said, hey, hope everything's going great. I'm sitting here. I saved us a table. Let me know when you get here. Would love to order you a cup of coffee. So 10 or so minutes go by and the person is not yet here. And so I shot them another text. And I don't know about you, but I personally find parking garages really overwhelming. Downtown's overwhelming. The first time I go to a new place sometimes can be overwhelming. And so I experienced that and wanted to share that with them and said, hey, if you're having a hard time finding parking or getting to the building, no worries. Just let me know. Or here's my assistant's number. Feel free to give her a call as well. And one of us can talk you through it. And in the meantime, I'm just sitting here and, I'll be ready for you when you get here. So another 10 or so minutes goes by and the person still isn't there. So I shot them a third and final text and said, hey, looks like this morning just may have not been a good fit for you. I totally get it. I am having a great time sitting here, catching up, like I said. But if I can meet with you still and you are on your way, no worries. And if not, it looks like this just wasn't a great day. Let's go ahead and plan a time to reschedule. I'll be here for 10, 20 more minutes. And if I don't see you, let me know what it works best for you. So the person didn't end up coming. But a few days later, I heard from them. And this was the text that I got. And it said, I am so glad that I heard from you. And I am so sorry that I wasn't at this meeting. But what happened was that I learned that day that my only sibling had a terminal illness. And I was with them at the hospital. And I was so traumatized by this experience. I just completely forgot about anything else on my calendar. I just didn't remember that we were supposed to have coffee that day. And there wasn't great reception in the hospital. And so there were no reminders going off that reminded me that I was supposed to meet you. And so therefore I didn't make it. And oh my goodness, my heart went out to this person. And I thought, I am so glad that I learned about giving grace at an earlier point in my life so that I sent the messages that I did. And I didn't send something like, where the heck are you? Or I'm upset that you're not here, because that would not have made me feel good in the situation once I learned what had actually happened. And it sure as heck wouldn't have made the recipient feel good. It only would have added to her stress on what was undeniably one of the worst days of her life. And so what if we treated everything like that we gave everyone grace, and every time that we could, until we actually have to hold someone accountable. Sure, there are going to be times, and you're going to see that in life, where it's not only your responsibility, but maybe someone doesn't earn your trust. They've shown you they have a mode of operation where they actually have this pattern of not being a helpful or kind or timely person. In that instance, you may need to change this outlook, or at least your strategies around it. But in every other instance, if we can give someone grace, if we let that speedy car go by and just realize they're having a bad day, it doesn't help us to give them the bird or rev our engine or go around them, or doesn't help to shoot the text for the nastygram or be accusatory. Because not only does that not then make us feel good inside, it also doesn't help you maintain that bridge. Because more than likely, at some point in your life, you also are going to need that help, or potentially that person or entity. I know I have experienced that, where about 5 years ago, I had a period in my life where there were several deaths in my family. I had several IT issues at work that were causing it to be difficult to get my work done. There were several other factors that were going on that contributed to just some really difficult personal challenges. And I couldn't perform in the same way that I wanted to. And it not only taught me a lot of humility and gave me a big old piece of humble pie, but it also was a piece of silver lining, and that it gave me this empathy and ability to realize that sometimes we are unable to perform professionally or personally as we wish we could. And if someone just comes along, gives you a pat on the back and asks you, what are the tools that you need to succeed? How can I help you in this instance? Understanding this isn't going the way that we both wish it was. What can I do to help you? And that is going to produce that positive result or that work product so much more quickly for the other person and or for you than if we send them another nasty dream that they feel like they can't respond to, that makes them feel anxious, that makes them feel anxiety, and that, again, just doesn't make you feel good at your core. So what are some things that are going to help you maintain telling negativity to take a hike, showing others that you care about them, and showing yourself and others grace? And that is, think about who you are spending the most time with. It is going to have such an influence on you, your personality, the work product you achieve, and your overall mindset that you're able to maintain. When you allow yourself to spend the majority of your time with one or more people who are negative, and they may be negative in certain ways. So for instance, it may be a person who may be a family member or a close friend, and they love to gossip about everyone else in your life. And pretty soon what you find is that although you normally wouldn't have those feelings on your own, now every time you're with those people, you have those experiences too. And that was directly attributed because that person planted those seeds in your mind. And so when you don't spend time with them, and that may be hard because, again, they may be someone who for years has been really close to you. But when you make it an active process to step away from them, you are going to be so much better to lift up yourself and others. It's so important that you really curate this team. Also think about who you are spending time with at work when you can manage that. And I understand that sometimes we are told who we're going to work with, but I've noticed this, that sometimes there are team members that maybe they do great work, or maybe they are a great resource to you in other ways. But again, they might be negative about others, or always have that glass is half full, that Debbie Downer way of looking at things. And what you've got to do is find a way to separate yourself from them so that you stay in that positive lane, and that you don't allow their mindset and their views to then drag you down and make you focus on what's negative, as opposed to how you are actually going to find and identify the problem, identify the solution, and move it forward. Because again, we're not going to dwell. We're going to figure out how to solve problems. One of the best things that I ever heard at work was that I went one day to my boss with a problem, and I said, this is what's going on. And I started to launch into this big story, and he cut me off and he said, I need you to get to the solution. And he said, it's not that I don't care what happened to you. And by the way, it's completely appropriate in a situation. He in no way was being insensitive, but he said, I accept as a truth what you're saying and what you are going to continue saying. So let's get to the solution. How are we going to solve this problem? How is it that I can help you? And that was transformative for me, because it made me realize that not only did I want to make that my goal when I was interacting with others, but that I want to be able to do that for others. So that when someone comes to me and that they are having a bad issue in their life, that they can be helped and think, how are we going to get to that solution? How are we going to work together on this? One thing you may want to think about doing as well is creating a board of directors. And this can be done in so many different forms. So I'm going to use board of directors in quotations here. And so you may want to think about who is in your life that you're spending time with that you have intentionally curated. Meaning, do you have diverse schools of thought? And diversity comes in so many different flavors. It could be race, it could be religion, it could be gender. It could also be, are you spending all of your time with one type of professional? It can be great to get a 360 skill set. It'll bring more to you in the workplace, even if what they do isn't exactly on point with what you do on a daily basis. You might still learn, and it's analogous about how you might be able to create change. You might also want to think about creating a mastermind. Do you want to intentionally form a group? Maybe there's 3 additional people that you think are awesome, and you're all working towards various goals, and you're going to meet once a quarter. And in each of those quarters, each of you has the opportunity to present what it is that you're working on and get feedback from the other 3. You don't necessarily need to pay thousands of dollars to do that. It's something that you have the power to form yourself, to create yourself and do really well yourself. And you might do it even better than if you joined another group. And so being intentional is one of my favorite words, is so important. You can intentionally set your path and make sure that you are climbing up that summit in the way that works best for you. And so with that, I want to get to gratitude. And that is one of the best ways that we can maintain our positivity. Research shows that when you live a life of gratitude, you naturally are a more productive person, a happier person. You're happier. Everybody around you is happier. And there are a couple of things that have really worked for me in this space. Number one is that I learned that it is never too late to say thank you. It's never too late to say thank you. I experienced this the other day. I was going over a task list with a colleague and I wanted to send a letter and they were encouraging me not to do so. They said, don't you think it's too late? And I said, you know what? It's not. Because there are a couple of things that I've learned is that sometimes it's actually better to send the sympathy card or the thank you card or the birthday card late because it shows that you're still thinking about the person. And depending upon the situation, it's more impactful that you learned from them. And I'll give you a couple of examples. So for instance, if you've lost someone who's close to you, what you know is that at the beginning of that journey, oftentimes there is an outpouring of sympathy. And sometimes that can be really wonderful to know that your community cares about you. It can also be, depending upon the situation, very overwhelming because you're trying to process the situation yourself and or you feel like you need to get back to others at a time that you really don't have capacity to do that. And so sometimes when people reach out later, that is at not only the height of your loneliness, because now all the initial flood is gone, but that may actually be when you need the most help or are really looking for a shoulder to lean on. And so I'm not encouraging you not to reach out immediately. That's certainly appropriate too. But don't ever hesitate to reach out to someone because no matter what time you choose to do it, you can truly have a positive impact. When it comes to the thank you note situation, one of the things that research shows, believe it or not, is that sometimes the later you send that thank you card, the more impactful it is. And here's why. If you learn something from what you are experiencing at Rising Up Your Summit today at this conference, then you're still thinking about it, say 6 months later. And in that interim between today, when you hear a presentation that really resonates with you, and 6 months when you're sitting in your office or you're on a run or on your bike, whatever it may be, and this thought comes, you've had 6 months to experience that knowledge, to let it impact you and to formulate your thoughts and strategies. And so if you write to that speaker and you're like, hey, Steve, thanks for throwing this great conference. It really had an impact on me. When I listened to Mel, I learned about rising up my summit. I learned about showing others grace. And as a result of that, I've been able to do it with my team. And we have cultivated a better work culture, and they in turn have now been able to do it for others. And wow, what an impact that note has on Steve or on Mel or whoever you choose to send it to. Because now they know that you have spent all this time not only listening to them, but really learning from them and implementing what it is they had to say. One of the things I've realized that depending upon where you're at in your career, sometimes people stress about gifts. And some of the most impactful gifts are the ones that are free or very low cost, a 99-cent greeting card, or now at the Dollar Tree, a $1.25 greeting card. To send that and say, I learned from you, or I appreciate you. It doesn't have to be a big meal or a fancy party. It can be that simple. For me, when I walk around the offices of my team, one of the things that I notice is that there are thank you cards that are hanging on their door that they may have received from a colleague years ago. And it may be the only thing that is hanging in their office. And note that it is the only thing. And the reason that has made such an impact on me is because they don't necessarily have a picture even of their family or loved ones. And not that those people are important in their life, but in their work world, what was most impactful was that thank you note from someone they haven't spent as much time with, but that they knew that that person treasured them and made an impact on them. And so to the exclusion of anything else, that is one of their most treasured items. For me, it's certainly true. I had a mentee that sent me a note, and it was one that said that I was his Hail Mary, that he had almost given up after spending 3 years going to law school, and he was unable to find a job. He had gone on 17 job interviews, and we met at a reception. And what I said at the reception was, I can't give you great advice here because it's loud. It's hard to formulate my thoughts. People are coming up to us. So would you come to my office the next day and let's meet then and talk about strategies to get you employed? And he did. He showed up the next day. And I spent a good hour and a half with him. And we were periodically on the phone after that. And a few months later, he wrote me this note. And again, it was the most beautiful thing I've ever received because it said, "You were my Hail Mary. But for you, I was about to quit and think about giving up my lifelong dream of being a lawyer." He had graduated from law school, but he was like, I was going to take that law degree and basically be a barista at Starbucks because I just no longer thought it was possible to find a job in that particular market. He said, "But because you invested time in me, I was able to succeed. And now I'm at this law firm and I'm having a great time and I'm living out my dream." And wow, if my house was burning down, I would make sure that my family got out and my doggy, of course. I'd make sure I had my wedding rings. And beyond that, I probably would take that card. Those are probably three of my most important possessions: my family, my wedding rings, and that card, because it's so impactful to me, because it shows me that the time that I spent mattered, that because I invested in someone else, it mattered, and that I was able to make an impact. And so hopefully some of these tips and tricks have really helped you today too, because it has been so great spending time with you. I love thinking about sunny Arizona. We are so, corresponding with you in terms of yellow and sunshine here in Florida, where I am from. Even though I can't be with you in person, it is just such a joy to join you electronically. And I just hope that you are having a wonderful time. And if you want to connect further, please do so. You can find me on Instagram, YouTube, the internet, Facebook, and all of the other platforms at Spread Your Sunshine or spreadyoursunshine.com, as the case may be. And then on Twitter at sunshine_women. And so with this, I hope you have a wonderful day and know that I am thinking of you from Florida. Bye-bye.